Come on, man. We're rock stars. That's what we do here, Paul.
Yep.
That's what we do here. And we are live, by the way. So be careful what you say, young man. No hot mic takes to hit the airwaves. And to everybody out there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Paul Smith Goodson is the gentleman with the darker shirt on, and he is the genius of the show. And my name is Matt Kimball, and we are here with More Insights and Strategy Data Center podcast to talk all things data center related. Is that right, Paul?
That's right. Anything data center related, we got it.
We got it, and we're going to kill it. Hey, before we get going, Paul, we have to let people know that what we talk about has nothing to do with the financial markets and should not be taken as such. And if you invest based on what I say, you're stupid. If you invest based on what Paul says, you're less stupid, but you're still stupid. So don't do it. How's the week been so far? We're only a few hours into it, but you're doing okay?
I'm doing good, yeah.
Yeah?
The only problem, it's not Friday yet.
It's not Friday yet. No. It's not Friday yet. That's okay. But clearly you've been thinking about data centers because you want to talk about the 10-year and the 20-year and the beyond kind of roadmap for data centers. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement. I mean, it's not necessarily 100% accurate, but I think it's a good indication of where we're going to go, or at least the direction we're going to take.
I like that.
Last podcast, we talked about putting where we're going to put super intelligent models up in LAO, ATO, Lagrange points. We're going to put them. And that's the problem right now with just plain data centers. I mean, with some of the publicity that we're getting, I mean, it's turning into a situation like you've got 1,000 feet, but no shoes to put them on. So, I mean, just a lot of issues about water and electricity and contamination, and they're making up all kinds of things. But I think
it's interesting though, because we saw a few weeks ago, New York put a moratorium on, or pause, I should say, on moratorium's a pause, I guess, on new data center build-outs. Texas actually just announced it a week or so ago, was kind of rethinking, the rush to West Texas and so on and so forth for data center build-outs. So, with that said, I mean, how do you see this all playing out? I mean, what happens?
We talked about the case in, I think, Louisiana, where that regional area got all kinds of great incentives to let them put the data center in. School teachers got $50,000 bonuses instead of $10,000 bonuses. I think it's going to kind of boil down to maybe a combination of the public understanding eventually, how important these data centers are, and incentives that companies are willing to pass out. I think it'll eventually get resolved. Data centers, that's one of the most important pieces of technology on the planet right now, I think.
I agree with you, but do you think that it's just a matter of giving more people more money to kind of pave the way for future data center development? Do you think you have to change things?
Counteracting some of the bad publicity that they're getting, and some of the wild claims that are being made. And, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think, maybe not 10 years from now, but do you think 20 years from now, when we think about what a data center is, do you think, all right, I'll tell you what I think, and let me get your thoughts on it, okay?
Okay.
I think there's kind of an all of the above approach that's going to be taken to enable the data center build out we need. There are social issues you have to kind of consider. There are economic issues you have to consider. they're environmental. And I don't mean like, we need to go green environmental, but, there is a cap on natural resources available. So there have to be ways to better power and sustain these data centers without having a major impact on that town or that area. And then there's the kind of concentration of everything in one place. So I think there's going to be an all of the above. I think nuclear is going to come online. We're going to see that happening. I think the data centers in space, as science fiction as it sounds today, I think it's going to eventually take root. It's not going to be what people think. This is not a Microsoft data center, kind of orbiting the Earth. This is much different, right? It's a collection of smaller data centers connected that are orbiting. And I think maybe to some degree, there is a change to how we think about the physical construct of a data center today, say 20 years from now. Maybe it's not a single big data center. Maybe it's a collection of smaller micro data centers that are connected, because we're going to figure out this bandwidth issue, and we're figuring it out more and more, right, through optical connectivity. But maybe we see lots more smaller data centers that are being connected across a region, across a country, across the globe to deliver that aggregate performance, but not at a 5 gigawatt, 10 gigawatt power envelope per campus. I think there are a lot of different kind of ways we're going to attack this, and what we're seeing is the beginning of that kind of inflection where people are going, wait a minute, if you scale this out, we're saying we need a gigawatt today, maybe 2 gigawatts today, maybe 3 gigawatts today. We're going to need 5 gigawatts tomorrow. We're going to need 10 to 20 gigawatts in the future. I think people are starting to go, well, what does this really look like? You have 2036, 2046. What does this really look like long term? And how do we kind of scale to that without this kind of just linear growth of, fewer data centers that are, much bigger in size? That's what I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. We're sitting in the middle of 2026 right now, and AI has completely rewritten the rules of infrastructure. And it's going to continue to change through the next 10 or 20 years. Up until recently, data centers evolved pretty slowly. That was one of my first jobs, was installing basically a data center in a central office for AT&T, and negative 48 volt and negative 24 volt batteries and power supplies and all that stuff. I helped install it, and then I had to maintain it. So, and it's changed a lot since then. So we've gone from raised floors to a couple of kilowatts in a rack to just massive hyperscale campuses like they're building in Louisiana. And the generative AI is going to continue to drive it, I think. I mean, things that used to take 10 or 15 kilowatts are hitting like 120, 130, and air cooling is going by the wayside. So I read I read an analysis and I think it was in Network World, talking about NVIDIA's own rack designs, and direct-to-chip liquid cooling has become kind of the new standard right now.
Yes,
with all the density and everything, and where it used to be air, and it's gone past 50, 100 kilowatts. So that's where we're at today. I mean,
not to go off on a different topic, but that's an interesting play that you're talking about in an interesting angle, because it speaks to something else too. And two things I'd like to get your thoughts on. One is, do you think, given you are right in that, from the days that you started kind of data center design to today, it's changed a lot. But really, if you look at it kind of over the years, over the decades, it's been fairly incremental, right? more power, but still kind of the same motions. It feels like AI in whatever, by the way, there are going to be things that follow AI, and quantum is one of them. But what follows AI, what AI and what follows it is having us to rethink how we design and deploy data centers.
Yeah.
So back when you were designing a data center, and today, the lifespan of that data center is 25 years or so, right? 20 to 25 years. That's how we measure, and we kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We kind of think about the economic impact over the life of a data center. It's about 25 years. That's going to change, and it's going to change considerably with AI. Do we start thinking about data center development and construction in smaller, more agile chunks? Maybe we go from 25 to 10 or 25 to 5, and they're more kind of temporary in how we think about the construction of them, because we know it's such a fluid thing. And does that cause us to think smaller and more agile? I'm kind of curious kind of how you think about that.
Well, I know that one thing, I mean, we're seeing rack densities changing right now as we're sitting here talking about. I mean, they're going to keep climbing. My dog is
Okay.
sorry. Anyway, rack densities are going to keep climbing, and we're going to, excuse me just a minute. Let me,
Yeah.
I love dogs.
I do too. I love mine too.
We've got 3 of them now.
Oh.
Yeah, too many dachshunds and the cocker.
Oh. I love spaniels. They're such smart.
Yeah,
smart.
they really are. Independent too.
Mm.
But anyway, the rack densities are going to keep changing. I mean, AI is going to be driving everything still. I read another report. I think it's going to probably account for about 50% of it in a few years. So, but anyway, we'll go from like 200 to 500 kilowatt racks.
Well, that's where it gets me thinking. Like, so that changes a lot of things in the data center, right? It changes the power that's coming in, how you step transform that down into and what you feed in.
We've got a couple things. Cooling, going to be almost all liquid eventually. Direct to chip is going to be a standard.
Yep.
The two-phase and full immersion systems are going to handle really hot loads. It's going to be designed, liquid first from the ground up. So, I mean, that's going to take care of some of this stuff, I think. And our architecture is going to change too. I mean, the industry is looking at. Have you heard of the what it's called? It's a consortium, but anyway, they've got an 800 volt DC power architecture that NVIDIA supports and all of them support. So that's going to change. That's going to reduce a lot of convection losses.
But when you start thinking about that, the impact, the physical construction of that data center is radically different than what's sitting out there today. And that's I feel like that's going to continue to evolve. When quantum becomes mainstream and you want to deploy that in a data center, well, what are the requirements around deploying a quantum environment, right? Again, it's considerably different. So all of this leads to do you still think about the life of a data center being 25 years, or do you kind of compress that down and think about?
I think we're going to build them so that we can morph them as it changes. I mean, look at right now we've got grid power, and eventually we're going to have on-site generation of power. And that's going to be natural gas maybe, and
nuclear,
modular power supplies that they're building. So
there's a lot there. It's super interesting, and it changes the whole how you manage a data center, how you construct it. By the way, there's also for the legacy, it's great that NVIDIA says we think of direct to chip, and then the two-phase and single phase immersion cooling as being kind of first order design principle for data centers. That's great, but you have a lot of properties out there now that don't support those capabilities and aren't going to support without major retrofits.
Yeah, that's going to come, I think. So,
and by the way, that two-phase stuff, if you really want to support two-phase, the tanks that you use to support those aren't going to be supported in a lot of standard data centers today. Number one, they're too big to fit in. Number two, the weight density is there's a lot. It's interesting.
I saw a forecast by it was Data Center Dynamics. Anyway, they said that by 2035, data center capacity is going to reach a couple of hundred gigawatts by 2035. I mean, that's a lot. That's probably 20 or 30% of what the entire nation needs,
Right. And so how do you support that in a real and practical way, right? Yeah. And do you support that at one location, or do you say, okay, well, instead of one 200 gigawatt facility, we'll have 102 gigawatt facilities that are highly connected or connected over dedicated, a dedicated fabric that is, as low latency as possible. And then there are maybe a few major data centers that are 20 gig or 50 gig that are kind of centralized hubs. I think it's going to be a completely different looking data center landscape than we think of today.
Yeah, there's advanced nuclear energy they're looking at, and then they're talking about fusion or next generation geothermal playing.
Yeah.
It depends, of course, where it's at, but there's going to be spots where we can do that.
Yeah.
And eventually, I mean, they've talked about having a surplus of power and using that surplus of power, heat or water or whatever, to pump back into the community. So that's going to help. Yeah,
I will say before we move on, one thought on that. You just reminded me. I think it was 2025. I went to Switzerland and did a analyst summit with Siemens for their data center management division, and they took us to a local data center outside of Zurich. Excuse me, and it was an old power station that they converted. Actually, it was originally a World War II era bunker, for the town to go collect in case of invasion or something of the sorts. So it's an underground data center that they had converted from that bunker to a power facility, and then they converted it to a data center. And they have built into it distribution back into the community. So the excess heat in the hot water that's generated, the warm water that's generated, gets moved out into the community to provide heat and not clean hot water, but gray hot water or warm water for use. It's such an advanced way of looking at things. And, while I don't fully subscribe to the, let's stop progress on technology for the sake of sustainability, it's neat to see how they're innovating to kind of bring the two together.
Yeah. And I think, we're going to have to do that.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Anyway, hey, let's go on because it's related to what we're talking about, and that is AI. So this is probably more in the realm of Jason Anderson at More Insights and Strategy, but I want to talk about something that I've been kind of chewing on, and I did a couple of blogs on over the last couple of weeks. And one of them was a forcing function based on some announcements Oracle made around its Apex platform. So let me set up the challenge here, okay? And then kind of talk about what's being done and get your thoughts. So the challenge is this. You've got coding assistants out there, and you've got, even beyond coding assistants, you've got just plain old vibe coding through AI tools like Chat or Claude that allow you to, vibe code, create applications. And these are things that are being done in businesses, in organizations today. So Whereas in the past, if you, Paul Smith, or if I, Matt Kimball, was a marketing guy and I needed some new application developed to help track, the effectiveness of my campaigns, I would go to Paul Smith Goodson. I would ask you to write that. You would write an application, probably a 3-tiered application that took into account all of the things that the company cares about: privacy, security, performance, resource utilization, so on and so forth. And also met my needs, right, around kind of what I'm looking for. Well, with AI, I don't have to do that anymore. I can do it myself. And that's great. But that model addresses kind of, if you look at, application development lifecycle as a full continuum, that vibe coding or that coding assistant allows me to do about 10% of that, right? It allows me to build that application quickly. All of the underlying data that, or all the underlying functions kind of in runtime, the security, the governance, that's not necessarily accounted for, right? That's part one. Part two is where you run that. Do you run it on this server or do you run it on that server? That might be, better fit for it, but I don't realize that because I'm not a developer. Those things don't get answered. And so there are a couple of things going on. The first is something called application, or it's a platform engineering framework 2.0. And it's something that the platform engineering community has put together, and VMware from Broadcom has been contributing to pretty considerably. And that puts in place a lot of the underlying constructs that have to be considered around developing applications in the era of AI. And part of it is, I think is really cool, is understanding that when you develop this kind of application with these characteristics, there are certain places for that thing to run more optimally. Either optimally could be better for price, better for performance, better for latency, better for privacy. Optimum can mean multiple things, right? But you have the ability to define what optimum is for you. And this framework is kind of suggesting that you need some tooling that says, for this workload and the requirements you have, we're going to automatically put it on this cluster versus that cluster. If it's, a coding assistant, it runs over here. If it's a chatbot, it runs over there. And it kind of takes all of those characteristics into performance. That's really cool. Part two to that is Oracle just released Apex 26.1. It's a low-code app generator. And it has something in there called Apex Lang, which is really kind of the element to this, or what's been most recently released. And what Apex is doing in general is it's saying, look, we understand that the number of folks that are developing applications is going to change. And by the way, in Oracle environments, that underlying data structure is really well defined through Oracle databases, right? And so what Apex is doing is it's saying it's treating that application layer as kind of like a meta layer. And your runtime, all of the dependencies, all of the requirements around security, so on and so forth, those all sit in runtime. And so Apex is interpreting all of this stuff that you're developing from an application perspective, turning it into SQL, turning it into code, and then running it against the Oracle database, right? So it's bringing AI closer to the Oracle database. It's allowing you to use those coding tools and assistants, whether it's Apex, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Claude Code, right? It's letting you use those, but it's not allowing the application to change the runtime variables in environment that would introduce risk into the environment, either for security or performance or so on and so forth. Really cool ways to address how we think about applications being developed, built, and deployed in the enterprise, because the proliferation is going off the roof, right? Now that folks like I can go build applications, the proliferation of business apps and business programs is really going off the charts. So I'll stop there, get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I read a little bit about Apex 26.1. It solves the life cycle maintenance burden, I think, doesn't it?
It
To some
sure
extent.
does. Yeah. Well, if
And-
you could stop there for a second, Paul, that's a good point, because I can write an application and be gone next year. The year after that, you need to upgrade that. Well, Matt's gone. How do you do that, right?
yeah.
That's what Apex allows you to change that meta level stuff without disrupting all the business logic underneath. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So in some way, you're really trading generated code for regular runtime, right?
Yep. Correct. Yep.
So just making sure I'm right in my assumptions there. So you're swapping code maintenance debt for something really deep in terms of permanent databases, and you're kind of locking things in on that.
You're locking things in. Yes.
That's a problem, I think.
Yeah. So and this is where the trade-off.
Lock-in.
Yeah, it's a lock-in thing. And that's kind of the trade-off. But the way I look at it is this: if you're an enterprise that's been using Oracle for the last 10 years, last 20 years, last 30 years, and you have all of your mission critical data in there, or a lot of mission critical data in there, and you want to continue to build applications around that data, this is a great tool for you, right? Because you're on Oracle, and this just further tightens the security around that environment. This is not for, I don't think this is for, if you're not an Oracle environment, I don't see the play for this for you, right? But this is purely for folks that are Oracle customers, that are looking to further enable, AI application development within their environments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see that kind of as a future-proof method of architecture?
I think so, yeah. And I think it does, and I think it does some other stuff too. I think it, going back to the original, you have with AI, you are turning regular folks that might be smart into application developers. But they're application developers that don't understand application architectures, and they're application developers that don't understand kind of the core concepts of computer science. So when you have these folks stepping in and developing applications, they don't necessarily have that deeper understanding of what that environment looks like and how they have to architect for that environment. This allows them to have that freedom without breaking everything underneath it. Yeah.
We're getting so dependent on AI. In fact, we are almost totally dependent on from a software standpoint.
Yes, we are.
Some of the companies, it does 100% of the software work for them. To me, that's
it's amazing what you can do. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating what we can do with AI today, and it's only getting better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was kind of cool. I really like what I like. And for those that are watching at home, there are a couple of notes, links that'll be in the show notes around these. But I love how platform engineering is evolving. It's going in the right direction. I think there's a lot of depth to be added to that, to account for the increase in silicon that's going to be it's sitting in the enterprise. Love what they're doing, and I really like what Oracle is doing. Oracle is saying, if you're an Oracle customer and you need AI and you're using AI for application development, this is a must-have for you. And what they're saying is, you don't have to use Apex. You can use Codex from OpenAI. You can use Claude Code, and still write into Apex as your source to develop your applications. But if you're an Oracle customer, you got to look at this Apex 26.1. It is completely free, and it absolutely fully enables that citizen developer without compromising anything below, or anything at the infrastructure level. So, yeah.
Let me ask a question with Apex. You can use third-party agents on it, right? Like Claude.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Right now, they publicly talked about Codex, and they've talked about Claude Code.
yeah.
And I think it's because those are the super popular agents out there. I suspect as more agents come online, they'll support, or I should say, as more agents gain in popularity, they'll be brought into the ecosystem.
What do you think about Oracle? Picking third-party agents instead of trying to build.
Well, here's what I think about Oracle. I think and I will say this, and I'll
I'm not
go.
being negative. I'm just curious about what
No,
you think.
no, no. I think it's a really good question, and because I think you're seeing an Oracle that's different than the Oracle I used to know. When I first started in Oracle, in the Oracle
Almost a
world, I
song,
was.
some type of melancholy song,
I wish I had a cup of coffee. I feel like Grandpa telling his grandkids stories about the old days. But when I first jumped into Oracle, I was supporting Oracle 8. And that's what I learned: SQL, PL SQL, you know, all of the ins and outs of Oracle databases on Oracle database 8. And that's what I supported in my environments: 8, 9. We're at 26 now. And when I first started using Oracle, it was a company that delivered a lot of value to the enterprise, understood it delivered a lot of value to the enterprise, and extracted what it considered to be fair pay for that value, right? And it wanted everybody locked into Oracle as much as it possibly could. And so the company did many things to assure that when you were in Oracle, you would stay in Oracle. I think what you've seen over the last 10 years or so from the company is a company that has realized that it plays in a bigger environment, in a bigger ecosystem now. So you've seen an opening. You saw it with OCI, right? When it developed the second generation of OCI, it was a focus on cloud first and openness. Oracle database being deployed in all of the major cloud providers was another step in that direction to show. The way it's handled HeatWave and the way it's handled integrations into its autonomous data warehouse, supporting different formats, different database types and database connections. It tells me that the company is far more open than it used to be. And it realizes that if it does that, it's going to be okay. The company will be okay because there's a gravity in every enterprise around that Oracle data, right? I mean, if I am a Fortune 500, there is a very good chance a large portion of my mission and business critical data is sitting in an Oracle environment, and it's going to sit there. And I think the company realizes it's okay, and it's actually to its benefit to be more open and to support third-party agents, support third-party applications. But it's building that anchor around security and governance in the database layer, to assure that it stays a relevant player. So I think it's done a fantastic job of, as a company, of opening itself up and being, a kind of a global citizen, if you will, instead of trying to be, the globe itself.
Yeah.
So that's probably too much of a soliloquy. I am not a fanboy. I'm not saying this as one. It's just when you see transformations like this, it's fascinating. You saw Microsoft do it, right? When it pushed and pushed and pushed for Windows Server to be in on every server in every data center, and it pulled back and embraced Linux. Azure is about as open as you can get. You see companies make these transformations and come out bigger and stronger on the other side. I think Oracle is an example of a successful use case in that.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway, I'll shut up, Paul. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead. I think, some people may be wondering, like, we've got ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, different ones. They make it easy for people in marketing or finance, vibe code something or work something up over a weekend. Why can't they just rely on that instead of something like Oracle?
But they do, right? So you can vibe code that, and that's what Oracle's saying is go ahead and vibe code on Codex or ChatGPT, right?
Instead of using Oracle, why not just use ChatGPT or something to cook something out?
Well, here's the thing, right? If I'm a company, let's go back to my use case, and I'll be quick on this because I know we're running over a little bit. But if I'm a company and I want to do that marketing campaign, right? And I don't want to go to Paul because he's a stick in the mud and he's worried about all these regulations and stuff, right? So I want to go vibe code it myself. The data I'm using for that application and I'm using for that campaign likely is sitting in an Oracle database.
Yeah.
So I have to use that data anyways, right? I'm connected to that data platform. And it's not fair to call it a database anymore because it's bigger than that. It is a data estate or a data management platform, but likely that is where my data is sitting. And so I'm going to have to work with that. I can use ChatGPT up front, but it's going to have to generate SQL and make calls to that Oracle database to get the necessary data, right? And that's where Apex is really helping. It's saying, hey, do your vibe coding, just write to Apex, write to Apex Lang, and it will take all of that. It'll generate the SQL. It'll make sure that it stays within guidelines. It'll pull that data and it'll bring it back to you the way you want it to. So,
yeah. Good answer.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Anyway.
We did go over, didn't we?
Yeah, it's okay. It's a fun conversation. Hey, what do you have going on over the next couple of weeks? You got any fun research stuff?
Big projects going on. Several big projects going on. It's going to consume more time than I've got, but I'll do it. So.
Right on. Well, that's good, right? Being busy is fun.
Good. Yeah, they're fun. Yeah.
Good.
And good. Challenging. It's good to get something that's a challenge once in a while.
We have the AI infrastructure, or the hold on, let me hold off on that. We have the 6.5 summit coming up here in next week, right? So that's going to be a big one. We're going to have a lot of these kinds of conversations going on. And then we have VMware Explore coming up, and AI infrastructure summit coming up as well. So a lot of the travel stuff starts up, and all of the industry related activity starts to buzz here over the next couple of weeks as well. So it's going to be a fun one. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see folks out there. All right, my friend. Thank you for a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll do this again in a couple of weeks.
Looking forward to it.
All right, my friend. Take care.